So how does Reiki heal? Well, let's focus in on the physical and the emotional levels. What Reiki does is to bring in fresh life force energy, and it helps the body stimulate its own self-healing mechanism. But let's go back a bit to the beginning of the problem. How do we get sick in the first place? Well, human beings really are meant to flow. Oxygen, prana, life force energy, blood, everything should be moving and everything should be flowing because the body's really good at regenerating, at taking away old cells. Autophagy is the way that it gets rid of garbage, the way that it gets rid of old cells and cleans itself. And the lymphatic system is also part of how the body gets rid of toxins, gets rid of old cells. If things can't flow within the system, what happens is that they get blocked. And there are lots of different ways that things get blocked in the system. So if you are sitting behind your desk all day, you can imagine how easily things get stuck and things get stagnant, right? At a more emotional level, if you're under stress, what happens? Well, then your body goes into a kind of shielding, a kind of fight or flight defensive system. What you do then is to put tension on the muscles. That closes down the fascia. That stops internal energy flow. Now, we do this tensing and this closing for a lot of reasons, and a lot of these reasons are very, very legitimate. If you've had terrible stress as a child or traumatic experiences, it's very natural that the body locks those things up. The psychology, the emotional development of that being at a very young age does not have the capacity to deal with all of these situations just yet. So it's actually quite appropriate. It's part of nature's defense mechanism to be able to close down and to lock those things. Ideally, though, as we develop, as we get more mature, we have a more developed psychological capacity to deal with things, then we can revisit those stuck moments. But what we tend to do is to practice this closing down and this holding through so many of our social interactions, right? If we have an argument with somebody, if there's someone that we want to avoid, if there's a stressful situation at work, we close and we put tension on the system. And we practice doing this over time. So then our habit is to hold, right? When we're under tension, our breath gets higher up. That means that we can't bring in as much new life force energy, and we can't expel old, stagnant life force and breath and air, right? So you can imagine now how we've been all taught these habits. We've all been taught how to behave like this. It's quite natural and normal, but it's not helping us. So energy is getting stuck. What happens then when we practice these sort of bad energy habits over a long period of time? Well, then it becomes chronic. Then disease starts to set in. Then it's much more difficult to get things moving. Now, I explain in much more detail in my courses how all these things work and what you can do about it, right? And then how Reiki helps it. But this is just enough to give you a kind of very good picture about what's happening, how energy is getting stuck, so that you can now understand, well, what is Reiki then doing? Well, it's helping you to do the opposite. So if you get a Reiki treatment, or if you're practicing Reiki yourself, the opposite is happening. So let's say that you're a practitioner. What you're doing when you're treating yourself, you're just allowing Reiki energy to flow into the system. That is firstly very relaxing. So that means you're going to breathe deeper. It means you're going to breathe in more life force energy, more prana, more chi into the system. Now the body's self-healing mechanism starts to activate. Then this chi, this life force energy can go to all these places that previously were blocked. So muscles, the fascia of the system, right? A lot of energy moves through the fascia, joints and tendons. So as you relax, as this new life force energy can come in, naturally that which was stuck will start to move. And those areas of stuckness which were most in need of attention will start to move and start to get released. Now, this illustrates a really cool aspect of how Reiki works. What you're doing, you're just bringing fresh energy in and allowing the system to start to heal itself. So this means that Reiki works in a very simple way, in a very easy way. So it means you don't have to diagnose, You don't have to do any therapy. You don't need to introduce any complex protocols. You just support the body's self-healing mechanism. And so much in that undoing helps to restore an awful lot of balance. Now, another important mechanism that supports the healing process in all of this, which I'm only going to touch on briefly, but need to mention it, and that is awareness and attention. So this is the part of consciousness that plays a role in a Reiki treatment. So when you come to a Reiki practitioner who is an open and loving person who is able to receive you in a space of non-judgment, this awareness also allows that which has been stuck to reappear. Because an awful lot of why we move things away, push things away, is because we move them out of our awareness because they were so painful. So when we can now bring them back into a bigger space, especially into a compassionate, loving space of non-judgment, things start to move again in a very natural way. So a quick recap, we're bringing in fresh energy, fresh life force energy, rejuvenating the system. We're helping the system relax very deeply, so that stimulates in a very positive way the parasympathetic nervous system, allowing the body to activate its own internal mechanisms of rejuvenation and self-healing. And the awareness, this very important field of awareness, is allowing people to release deeper seated blocks and traumas. Okay, I hope that you are enjoying the series so far. Please hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed. In the next video, I'm going to take you through the 3 main Reiki levels, 1, 2, 3, which is also called Reiki Master. I'll explain what they're all about.